company speaker, which is Ali Teva from KION. KION being, let's say, Ali, you correct me, a fairly new company, which was formed out of a number of global champions. I'm sure you will have a couple of slides on that. They started from a different point, and they, if I may say, they started from Excel. We found in our many conversations we had in Germany, Switzerland, UK, etc., that we estimate that about, and we talked mainly with ServiceNow existing customers, that 60 to 70% of customers of pretty much all sizes are doing IT financial management with Excel, with all the disadvantages you typically have with Excel. And that's the majority of the market, and so that should be very interesting. How is the journey different if you don't start out with one ITFM tool and deeply integrated TBM processes, but with Excel? Ali, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much, Andreas. First of all, can you see my screen? I hope yes. So as you can see from the
Can't see the
not sure.
slides at the moment.
Okay, let me just
Now
and now
starts. Yep.
perfect. So thank you very much, Andreas. So as you can see here in the header of the presentation, subject of the presentation, we are really quite new on the IT financial management processes. And as also like Andreas pointed out, we are like quite new, even though KION is a market leader in industrial truck solutions as well as supply chain solutions. I mean, we're talking here about an MDAX listed company with more than 11 billion of sales and more than 90 legal entities. So, which means also having this size, we also have a fair IT budget to manage, and not only projects, but also especially IT run cost, service cost. And so to me personally, I joined KION in August 2024, so a bit more than 1.5 years, and it was in the middle of the budget period, and since I had already some experience from other companies like Henkel, where I also worked for more than 5 years in the IT controlling department, and then heading the IT controlling at a Finnish stainless steel company, also working and implementing Aptio. I had a kind of some expectations how companies with such a big size should manage their IT cost. And what I found is basically a situation where we had more than 300 million of cost over the world, not really managed. Not really managed means that people were only looking at their IT costs or cost centers and financials only once per year during the budget period. And by that, they were basically hoping and then simply working without feeling any cost pressure. And by that, of course, not really developing this intrinsic motivation to also see how their costs are kind of behaving against budgets. So we were basically lacking here on the cost ownership. And when we implemented sfinx, even one statement in the training was actually, "Hey, you are asking me now to manage my financials. I was doing that basically once per year." My comment was basically, and this is exactly why we are doing that. We had some automations implemented, such as automatic budget reconciliation. So we were basically defining the budget once per year and importing that into SAP on cost center or even cost type level. And then the actuals were coming in, and it was there was just an alert or some blocking, so to say, in place if the actuals would have exceeded the budget. And this was basically our ways on how we were managing our cost, especially in our main IT legal entity, which is managing or managing more than 70% of our overall IT cost. Moreover, we also like also related to that people were not managing on a regular basis the cost. We also didn't have a forecasting process in place. So which means that the extrapolation of the actuals were basically our only indicator for our full year cost. Which, of course, and I think we all know what basically the result was. Our projection and basically the differences which we had to discuss and to the top management were mostly related to some one-time cost or even credit notes, which has been also like always projected. Yeah. So, and in parallel, also when we had, and we are facing that now, of course, across, since we are also like in the industrial business, we are also like facing some cost pressures for the last 2 or 3 years. Not like in general for the entire corporate, also having impacts on IT cost. But even when we had some even ambitions from the top management, we were not able to provide an indication on what we could save in terms of IT costs, because we were not really understanding our baseline or knowing what kind of cost would be still, influenceable until the end of the year or even in a midterm. On top of that, so coming back to my situation when I started, we were in the middle of the budgeting process, especially for our central IT legal entities, and we have there around 100 cost center to be planned, and with the same number of cost center and respectively service owners, and they were, as Andreas also pointed out, doing the planning on Excel. First of all, when doing a budgeting, you typically should have a baseline which you can use as a starting point for your cost expectations for the next year. So this was first of all not in place. Additionally, Excels, which were handled differently, but because of course, since we have also some data protection topic to be considered, we had several Excels over the globe, which had to be consolidated at the end of the day. And those consolidation led, of course, here and there also to some errors and mistakes, which were then even presented first of all considered in our target discussions with the management board, but then basically we're also not matching to the expectations of the cost owner. So this created basically some confusion as well as, of course, a frustration and across the entire organization. And additionally, if we have then received some top-down adjustments, we were not also had the tools at hand to know what kind of costs, coming back to a topic which I mentioned a minute ago, to say what kind of costs are influenceable, which I can cut. So it led to the fact that we were cutting on services where basically the entire costs were contractually binded and agreed. Yeah, so we ended up cutting on a running cost. We had, of course, some also other challenges like compliance topics and the governance topics within the IT controlling. But everything which I have now mentioned in the last couple of minutes, as you can see, this showed the need that we have to establish, first of all, some must-have processes in IT organizations. Yeah, which means, first of all, if you are owning a cost center, that you have an idea on what is really booked, so that you get used to your cost, the contracts you have. However, and we of course need to always understand the starting point in which we are in, right? So the maturity level of the organization when implementing or defining the starting point, because just assume if you go to a fully fledged IT financial or TBM solution, this would be basically an overkill for the organization, and it will be kind of overwhelmed, right? And this would be also like not very efficient. So that's why we decided, and we had, of course, the benefit that we have worked with Philip at Alex within our transformation projects in IT already, and we had some exchange. And here he told us, hey, we have also a sfinx solution here. Let's see if this will basically fit to your requirements. So why did we then, at the end of the day, decided to start the journey with sfinx? First of all, KION was already using or was working on ServiceNow. Our finance operations team was started the journey back then, I think in 2022 with the tool. Then we started SPM basically the same way like the colleagues at Wacker, I guess, with the demand management, and then we will continue, of course, the journey in enhancing that further. And also end of last year, we implemented and we went live with our ITSM tooling as well. So which means we are using that tool in the organization, and we wanted to also benefit from that. Means that we had integration, so less integrations to be done to other sourcing systems like authorization tools and so on, and we wanted to leverage that. That had, of course, something to do also with simplification as well as cost as well. So in addition, the way on how we tackle this entire topic of the IT financial management, for me, as a controller by heart, the truth is always in the actuals, right? And that's why we, but probably in a bit differently than other customers, we wanted from the first moment to have the actuals in the system, because the actuals is basically setting the foundation or basically ensuring that the quality of the forecast, respectively the budget, is given. So we tried them, and we did that basically. We imported our GL GL entries into that system, also through the POs, especially through the POs. And this PO topic was also not only close to my heart, but also close to the heart of our CIO. Because back then when I started, we had also a situation where we had a huge amount of entries, GL entries in IT cost posted and also paid without a PO reference, which is also like an audit topic. So we used, or we wanted, and we do that basically also now, use sfinx also for us to secure that the people are also working in a compliant way. So when we nowadays import our actuals and we see that we have unmatched entries, then we go to the root cause and see whether it is related to the fact that probably something has been posted without a PO reference. The next topic is also like quite important considering the maturity level of the organization when it comes to financials. sfinx was providing us the opportunity to let the IT organizations and the service owners look at their financials in the same way as they, manage their service technically. So we had that flexibility to define those resource coin. We started calling them, first of all, budget items, because we are using them a bit differently, I think, than they are expected to be used. Yeah, but by that we basically translated the cost, and by that we hoped that we get the buy-in of the organization much faster when we implement a monthly forecast process, because this means for them, of course, an additional workload, right? And we know IT guys have a lot of projects and changes, incidents to manage, and we wanted to support them by translating those costs to them, and sfinx was providing this kind of service for us. And for sure, we wanted, and we are of course not yet there, but at some point of time we will be there. We want to have a single source of truth when it comes to to IT financials. Currently, even now, we are not yet there, because currently we went live just with this one legal entities, and in the next couple of years we are going to onboard the rest of the world, basically. And then, since sfinx is quite new, we saw also the potential that we can even together with the colleagues improve the usability based on our also expectations. Because as you can expect, for example, if you are a user of Aptio, you don't have the power to ask for some adjustment in the standard products. You would have some customer specific development, and since this tool is quite new, and I think we did it already now in the last 9 months, that we had also some influence on some features on the standard product. So to give you a bit of insights on what we have done now in the last 9 to 12 months, when we decided to go for sfinx, we started first of all in defining those budget items together, or resource coins, together with the service owner. So we started having interviews where they were based on the budget figures, which they did on Excel in the budget phase of 2024. Tried to structure their cost. So we ended up having 2,000 to 3,000, 2,500, I guess, was the number of resource coins defined in Excel. Then we started, and in March of last year, the implementation phase. And the implementation phase went quite smoothly if you compare that to an implementation of IBM Apto, for example. It took us, yeah, 2 months. I think we started at the beginning of March and went live mid of May. And in this, with the course of the implementation, we set up our authorization concepts and then matching rules in order, because we of course not only have GL entries and PO postings, but in accounting terms we had to define the matching rules on for the accruals and for deferrals, etc. And then we were basically working on our interface. Let's call it interface because we took the decision to, first of all, have an Excel-based interface, an Excel upload functionality. Why is that? Because the current ERP on which this central IT unit is not on our target landscape. We as KION are in the middle of an S/4HANA harmonization project, and the central legal entity is not yet rolled out on S4. So that's why we basically said, let's not invest too much time and of course then money into building an interface which we anyway need to redo in a couple of years. And the most critical part was, of course, then the end user trainings to really take the colleagues to the to the journey, explaining them how they have to work with sfinx. But this was, of course, not enough, right? So in parallel to that, we established a financial a business partnering organization, which was a phase two. The IT customer, so to say, and those colleagues also trained them on the process, also at a later stage. After we went live, and this was basically in parallel to our budget process of the last year, and after, of course, having a couple of a month of actuals in the system, we found out that we had to redesign our resource coins quite heavily and significantly, because, as you can imagine, from the interview sessions which we had before, we had a lot of mistakes because people were not really familiar with how many invoices they receive, and the number of invoicing is basically a trigger, or exactly the invoice is basically the trigger for the resource for the number of resource coins. Yeah. In addition to that, we wanted to, of course, having the process set up in a more efficient way. For you to have a kind of a feeling. When we started right after the implementation, the monthly closing activity, meaning the integration of the SAP GL entries into sfinx, took us more than 2 days, 2 days per month, which was due to the fact that also the matching rules were not 100% capturing all the GL entries and automatically assigning to the resource coin. So we had to reprioritize and adding new matching rules to that. And now we ended up with a month-end closing runtime of 3 to 4 hours basically. And in addition, we also had the chance, together with our colleagues, to implement also like a kind of a log history and tracking of the end user discipline, because at the beginning people were not continuously updating their forecast and so on, and we wanted to have that kind of also like as a KPI and something which we can first of all also like point to the management, which service owners, you know, are also not following the processes here. But now, from my perspective, this is now a well integrated process across the entire organization, and we don't have really now to use this feature anymore. And now we are more in the continuous improvement period of the sfinx journey, like, or let's call it the wave one. Yeah, so we are now continuously improving small things in terms of the usability, not only of the end users, but also of the IT controlling colleagues. And what we also did is which is for me showing that we all want to work for a longer period of time with sfinx, that we embedded the resource coin information even in our source system. So when we start demand initiating a purchase requisition, the information on the resource coin to which this will be booked in future is mandatory, is mandatory for us. So by that we are having already basically our GL entries, GL SAP world kind of fully translated into the sfinx environment. Coming now to the outlook on how we want to utilize the tool even further. The major driver now for our sfinx journey will be more related to our S/4HANA program, basically, which means that this is sticking to the different rollouts which we have, which will mean for us that we will have by end of 2029 basically 97%, because APAC we need to keep out of the sfinx due to various reasons. We will have a 97% coverage on our global IT service cost in sfinx, which means also for us that by this point of time we will have a full visibility on our global services which we have, and which is also the sense of our IT operating model which we have introduced in 2022. Nowadays we are in a situation that we have this IT operating model, the visibility on the IT operating model only on the central IT unit, but not on the remaining 30%. And by 2029 we will be able, for each functional area like infrastructure or application, to go down on each service level and see a total cost, the total cost of each service, which then in the next step will allow us to really also make use of the chargeback functionality within sfinx. Right now we are doing the allocation completely separately, still in Excel, which has also like several reasons: master data topics, CMDB, etc. That's why we have chosen to allocate our cost based on, you know, two handful of standard allocation keys like sales, FTE, or SAP user key, for example. But I hope that by 2029, 2030, that we will be able to start charging our cost towards our customers based on the usage, which will allow us, and I think we heard it also like in the presentation of the colleagues of Stiel, that we can manage our cost from the customer perspective. Means that the customer can influence the cost which they get charged directly and see the savings also like directly in their P&L. By that, I think I'm at the end of my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ali. Another great presentation, especially the outlook and how you shared very openly the problems you had when you started out. We do have a question for you, and the question is, are you matching the GL data from the monthly closing manually or automatically? How do you include your actuals and forecast data just via uploading from SAP? I think you touched on that partially, but maybe you want to elaborate a little.
Yes, sure. It is a hybrid approach. What can be matched automatically is matched automatically, and we sometimes have some exceptions where we have to match some like the GL entries manually. This was basically the start why it took us then more than 2 days per month, because we had to match a lot of GL entries manually, but this is kind of reduced through the system enhancements and process enhancements which we have implemented.
Okay, great.
Yeah,
Great.
and the forecast is only done in sfinx, and we use that and translate that into a forecast which is then relevant for our group controlling, group finance colleagues.